Commissioners' regular board meeting for April 27th, 2023 to order. Pastor Rich George from Alpena Free Message, will you help us in a prayer, please?
Join me in praying, if you will. Father, you've made all that is, including this county, our home, with water and woods and wildlife, and with the people and the principles that operate our relationships. You know us, and you know what's good and right and true for us, and we thank you. Father, we pray together for the governing of this county. And we thank you for these commissioners and the work they've done and the work that's before them. Father, you teach us in your word that we're to pray for those who are in authority so that we can live peaceful and quiet lives marked by godliness and dignity. We pray, Father, that you'll give these men and women wisdom and knowledge and a continued desire to do what's good and right and true for our home county here and for all who live here. Thank you for the work that they do to inform themselves on the means available to do what needs to be done. Help them. Help them, we pray, to make decisions that they'll be proud of and glad to have made, even when it may have been difficult. Lord, I pray that you'll bless them today and help them for this work done for the benefit of our county. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor George. And we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Carrie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Here.
Commissioner Osmer. Here. Commissioner Fournier. Here. Commissioner Francisco.
Here.
Commissioner Konashevsky.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here. You have the agenda in front of you. Is there any additions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the adopt agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fournier. Support.
I'll support it.
Support by Commissioner Francisco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment. We have 3 minutes for in-house, then we'll have some, then we'll go to Zoom. So come up and state your name and your address, please.
Nancy McSwain, 434 Tuttle. I have some concerns about the survey that was discussed at the safety meeting because we need some sort of safety, stronger safety to avoid spam. I know how to do it. I won't do it, but IPs and browsers can be cleared and reset. So it could be spam. So maybe add phone numbers or something to that. So more secure so we know it's actually our Alpena County residents and not someone like sending 5, 10, 15, 20 comments. Thank you.
Anybody else in-house? Anybody online?
There is. I'm just waiting to see if someone raises their hand.
If not,
I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. State your name and your address, please.
Dawn Marweed, 11011 Emery Street, Osneek, Michigan. So in a recent news article, Mary Hanna, the county administrator, said the garage-like building at the fairgrounds was not suitable for the animal control. And if the county continues to provide the services it does now, a new facility will need to be built and the county can't afford it. However, you were previously given 3 choices from Ms. Hanna. Leave it as is, contract out a certain level of care, contract out a majority of the services that are not required by the state. Leaving it as is does not require a new facility to be built at this time. So why taint the up and coming animal control survey by indicating to our taxpayers that they may need to pay for this, which alludes to a tax increase for this facility. The only issue the state currently has with the current control shelter is the floor needs to be sealed. Deputy Reed and her shelter staff have proven over and over that if you have an idea and you put your time and effort into it, it can be done. Look at what they have turned that garage-like building into, a fully functional animal control shelter. I'd also like to remind you that there was another facility brought up to the commissioners by Deputy Reed and many of the supporters of animal control. Do you remember the old jail? Not only was it a perfect fit for animal control, but it had already been licensed by the state of Michigan as an animal control shelter. We already had a building and most of you got rid of it. There's one county function in the Alpena that the people of Alpena County willingly volunteer hundreds of hours for each year. There's only one function that the people of Alpena County donate tens of thousands of dollars to each year. There's only one county function that brings in enough revenue, such as donations and license fees, to make it practically financially self-sufficient. And yet it's the one county function that seems to be targeted by the county administrator and a few others. Not only do we have a successful animal control program, we have our own animal control officer, which is the model the state of Michigan is heading towards. Our animal control officer is not only a certified law enforcement officer, she is a licensed veterinary tech for over 2 decades. So again, I ask, why is this one county function that we care so much about that is pretty much financially self-sufficient being targeted? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
Yes, I would like to speak, but I don't know how to raise my hand either.
Okay, go ahead. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Edna Sorensen. I live at 305 Partridge Avenue, and I'm speaking on behalf of Alpena County Animal Control. I read the newspaper account of this situation and I'm confused. According to the county treasurer, Animal Control brought in nearly $65,000 in donations and $30,969 in license fees, leaving a deficit of $4,323 to be subsidized by the county. How is this a problem worthy of all the time and resources being expended on it? A $4,323 deficit is practically break even. Please remember that almost $65,000 is donations, which will disappear if this service is outsourced to another agency. Then the contract would have to be increased to cover these costs. In addition to donations of cash, which are administered by the county, Animal Control receives in-kind donations of food, litter, bedding, toys, blankets, cleaning supplies, and subsidized veterinary services, also paid for by the voting public. Maybe it's time to move on to other issues affecting the county and not fix what is broken, namely animal control. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Not, we'll close public comment. Consent calendar is attached. Need a motion to approve consent calendar, which includes action items and filing of all reports. You have the consent calendar in front of you. Is there any thing you'd like to pull off the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull FCSPC number 2.
FC. What is that, John?
Payment for Northern Lights.
Okay. Goes down. Okay, does anybody else want to pull? Anything else?
On this action item number 5, recommend to approve the animal control survey and to run for 30 days. I think we should not send that out because we're not going to learn anything.
You can pull it off the,
Yeah.
you can pull it off the thing and discuss it.
That's not on the consent calendar. That's on the regular agenda.
Okay, yeah, it's under, okay. Yeah, that's right, it is. Consent calendar, anybody else? Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented minus John's action item. Motion by John,
I'll second.
support by Bill. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, action item number we have Cynthia. You have go ahead.
Spots there. Thank you. And thank you so much for letting me. I'm sorry.
Gonna say, are we gonna discuss what John pulled off the consent calendar?
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I gotta go do that.
Sorry.
Down, Cynthia. Okay, John, go ahead.
Taking me for a minute, I'm like,
Yeah.
discuss it.
Yeah,
So just a couple things when I was reading through the facilities minutes, was the list of reimbursements for Northern Lights. So I went through all the reimbursements. I had one, I guess, not really major issue, but concern issue. We recommend, or we asked them for a list of invoices, and one of the items on the list gave us a statement. So I would just ask that they would forward us the actual invoice for that. And then the other item part of that, I guess I wanted to discuss was with the actual contract with Northern Lights, one of the items, and I actually got a copy of the section here in the contract that basically states, and I think I brought this up before, whereas this one looks a little bit different than the one I had in my file, but under the attachments, B, which would be Northern Lights Arena surcharge policy. In that section, it states that the county will budget $2,000 annually for funded expenses, an annual expense not to exceed $4,500. So I guess my concern is if in our contract with them, we're basically stating that the expenses wouldn't exceed $4,500, either we need to correct this or make a change to what we approved to reimburse them.
there was some discussion of facilities, Mary Catherine, on that. We had,
Yeah, there was.
There was, and I'm getting to that same section. There is a slight disagreement, I think, between the contract language and then what's in the surcharge agreement. And I'm pulling up the actual contract right now. I apologize, John. What's the concern again about the 4,000?
So we just approved the facilities board or committee approved the reimbursement of the 65 or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head.
$6,489.90.
Yeah, so that amount. But yet, when I look at the actual contract that was signed, it's stating we would budget 2,000 for funded expenses with the annual expenses not to exceed 4,500.
So in the actual language of the contract, it's subsection 4 under paragraph 3. The lessee, which would be Northern Lights, agrees to pay the first $6,000 annually of all repairs and maintenance to the facility, which would otherwise be paid out of the surcharge fund. It's agreed that all maintenance work will be performed as required, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, the way that the contract has been interpreted up to this point is that they pay the first $6,000 worth of regular maintenance, and we pay for above and beyond that initial $6,000 up to whatever amount the board approves.
So then, under this section B, like I said, in the actual contract.
In the surcharge fund, which is slightly different, right?
So it says, we'll put aside 2,000 to be budgeted and will not, for budgeted expenses with an annual expense not to exceed 4,500. So if they're paying the 6,000. So, and again, the way I'm reading this is, are we paying the Northern Lights Arena nothing above this 2,000 above or the 4,500? Because again, this is, I guess this is where.
We had this discussion before in this part of the contract. Where
Yeah.
They were contradicting each other.
So and again, going back to the contract, if this is the actual signed contract, then I would say if we're gonna actually pay that, then we need to either fix the contract,
Or change the surcharge.
fix something, because
Right, because you have two separate documents. The surcharge fund is incorporated by reference into the actual lease agreement. And obviously your surcharge fund agreement was passed prior to this most recent contract. So yes, you do have a little bit of a conflict between your
So I
contract
would-
and your surcharge.
I would recommend that
Policy.
the contract needs to be updated. Because again, if we're following the contract, we need to follow what the contract says, or they need to follow what the contract says. And if the language in the contract is incorrect, then we should probably correct that.
Yep.
Right, I mean, or you amend your surcharge policy, one or the other, one with two alignment.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So which one do you want to have fixed?
This is the easiest one.
What's the easiest one for?
In some ways, the surcharge fund is easier because the surcharge fund is something that you, as this board, are entirely in control of. If you open up the contract, then you have to negotiate terms with the other parties. So the surcharge fund is an easier document to modify. That being said, if you modify it, you do open yourself up a little bit for the other party in the contract to potentially question the contract because they agreed to a contract that had that particular surcharge fund associated with it as part of the attachments, as part of the agreements. I think it's probably a fairly easy discussion with the folks with whom we have the agreement with.
What I was going to say, to me, if we're going to just adjust that part of it,
Right.
they can agree to it, and we can make an amendment to that portion of the contract.
Bring it back to facilities next month.
And then, as I stated the first, Kim, did you actually see the invoice for that number one item on that list, or?
I have not reviewed the entire
Okay.
document. It was
What they
sent to me.
us was a statement.
Yeah.
Which is not, we asked for the actual
Actual bill.
invoices. Because on the statement, you can't, and again, I know it's probably small, but in the and he looked like he did a pretty good job with minusing all the sales tax out of all the invoices, but without the actual invoice, we don't know.
Yeah, I see the statement here. This was sent to me after the facilities meeting. And again, it does say the floor scrubber and the refrigerator, but as you've indicated, because it's a statement, we have no way of knowing if there's sales tax included in those dollar amounts that are on that statement. The invoices, are they listed further below? No.
No, I went through all of them.
Okay.
So just that one invoice that's
Yes, the
missing to
first one.
follow up with them. Okay.
Actually, it would be two.
Two invoices that have been
Because
included.
on the statement, there's two. One is for the floor scrubber and one is for refrigeration. And if they're looking for reimbursement for
I don't
that full
think they did.
statement,
I don't think they asked for the reimbursement on the scrubber.
Okay.
Okay, we need a motion to approve action item FCSPC 2.
approve it?
Well, I mean,
Are you
pass it on agenda.
Because are you going to approve the payment or are you just going to move it on to something else?
No, we approve the payment.
Well, do you want to approve the full amount? Do you want to approve some lesser amount? Do you want to hold the one reimbursement until we have an invoice and approve the rest?
I would,
Looking for a motion then. Don, you-
I'll make the motion to approve all except for the one without the statement
Okay,
or invoice.
they can bring it back to facilities.
I can't tell you the exact number, but it,
$181.11 is what's on there, which is the refrigeration. And it's dated 10/19/22. And it says invoice number S100468102.001.
everything that Kim just said.
Do I have a second? Support by Brenda. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Is this just for that one or the whole
Yep.
consent calendar?
Yeah.
Didn't,
Consent calendar was approved. This is for that.
Not already. You have to do a roll call for the consent calendar. It says right in the agenda.
for the consent calendar, the regular consent calendar, they did do, well, I don't know that they did a roll. I don't.
Roll call on the consent calendar original, and we'll go back to the other one.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Now, the second one, roll call on the
So just so we're all,
9 years,
so we're going to pay the,
minus 181.
part of that, we're minus.
Yeah, 181.11. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski, Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Thank you. Now, Cynthia, you can go up there.
I apologize, Chair. Are you jumping over item number 10?
Oh, camp grilling, yeah. You don't highlight it, I don't. I gotta get the highlighter out. Camp grilling. Sit down, Cynthia.
Same here.
We have a expansion presentation by Monty Bullis, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I've given about 40 of these presentations, and so you think by now I'd be comfortable doing it, but I get nervous every time. So please bear with me. My name is Monty Bolus. I'm a full-time Crawford County resident. And I'm also a founding member of a citizen action group. It's a 7,300 member citizen action group called Camp Grayling Expansion. We strongly support our military, adamantly opposed to the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. Before I go any further, if I may, can I please see a show of hands of any veterans we have in the room right now? Anybody? General Francisco, on behalf of myself and our group, Camp Grayling Expansion, I want to sincerely thank you for your service. It means everything.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Back to our group, Camp Grayling Expansion. We started about 9 months ago after 2 or 3 public meetings that were conducted about Camp Grayling didn't seem to jive. And what I mean is, from meeting to meeting to meeting, what was being shared with the public wasn't the same as the meeting before. At the 3rd meeting I was at, by sheer chance, I sat through the meeting, and standing a couple people away from me was a gentleman who I hadn't met yet, who stood up during the public comment section of the meeting after Colonel Meyer, Camp Grayling's designated spokesman, did his 2-hour spiel. And this gentleman who I hadn't met stood up and said, "My name is Mike McNamara. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from Camp Grayling. I'm a combat veteran and the former deputy commander of Camp Grayling. And I'm here to tell you that everything you've heard said in this presentation has been deceiving. What you've been told that this proposed expansion is about is not what this proposed expansion is about." And Lieutenant Colonel Mike McNamara said, "I want you to understand that if I thought for one moment this proposed expansion would save even one soldier's life, I'd be 100% behind it. But this proposed expansion is not about offering our soldiers a better training environment." So what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about Camp Grayling, the size of Camp Grayling. By now, many of you have probably heard that Camp Grayling is the largest National Guard training area in America. That's an understatement. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about the sheer size of Camp Grayling relative to all other National Guard training facilities in America. And essentially, there's one in each of our states.
Camp Grayling isn't just larger, it's overwhelmingly larger. In most cases by tens of thousands of acres, in many cases by 100,000 acres or more. So when you're talking about the size of Camp Grayling relative to all other National Guard facilities, even full-time military bases, for instance, Fort Bragg down in North Carolina. You understand the difference between a National Guard base and a full-time military base? National Guard soldiers typically train on weekends and a couple weeks a year. In contrast, full-time military bases like Fort Bragg station their soldiers on the base. If you were to take the population of Alpena County and double it, that's roughly, 57, 58,000 people. That's how many people are stationed, soldiers are stationed at Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg is roughly, and I'm speaking in generalities right now, is roughly the same size of Camp Grayling. Fort Bragg is about 160,000 acres from memory. Camp Grayling is 148,000 acres. So in contrast, you have a full-time military base, Fort Bragg, that has 57,000 soldiers stationed there, full-time, plus 23,000 spouses, plus another 11,000 civilians on 160,000 acres. And Camp Grayling, as it sits right now, is 148,000 acres. And in a typical week, they might have 100 to 200 people there stationed there full-time. Now, of course, on the weekends, they're busier. In a couple weeks a year, they're busier. But week in and week out, we're talking about having a couple hundred people on 148,000 acres as compared to having 90,000 people on 160,000 acres at Fort Bragg. When I speak about Camp Grayling's size, we can infer some things. When I say to you Camp Grayling is overwhelmingly the largest, what that also means is that all other National Guards are smaller. So what does that mean? That means that all other National Guards in all other states receive the same superior training and achieve the same superior combat preparedness, and they all do so on a fraction of the amount of land currently available to Camp Grayling. So when we're told that Camp Grayling needs additional land, 162,000 acres of additional land, we know that's misleading. We also know it's misleading because Lieutenant General Jack Bergman, who is a U.S. Congressman, took a stance against this proposal. And in his own words, after reviewing all the information, he believes that the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling is not justified, not sufficiently justified at this time. We also know, because Lieutenant Colonel Mike McNamara, the former deputy commander of Camp Grayling, few people on earth are as specifically familiar with Camp Grayling, its training area, and what is needed to properly prepare our soldiers for combat, will tell you that the proposed expansion is not needed. In fact, I sent in a packet of information to you a video. There's an 11-minute video. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at it, but Lieutenant Colonel McNamara starts that video off saying what I said previously. If he believed for 1 minute that this proposed expansion would allow for better training for our soldiers, he'd be the first to support it.
Hang on just a minute, Mr. Chair. You indicated we're at 5 minutes now, so.
We got a pretty long agenda, so you can,
Well, I was hoping to have up to 15 minutes. That's why I asked to be placed on the agenda. I drove almost 2 hours to get here.
Go ahead, we'll give you some more.
I appreciate that very much. Appreciate that very much. Citizens are being told the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling is needed to better train our troops. It's needed for what they call low impact ground maneuvers, and it's needed for electronic and cyber warfare training. That's what we're told. The problem is there is no, out of the mouth of Colonel Scott Myers, there is no definition for low impact ground maneuvers. It can be anything they want it to be, okay? With regard to needing additional space for electronic warfare training and cyber warfare training, we know that's not true because all other states, all other National Guards in all other states are going to receive that training, and they're all going to receive it on a fraction of the land currently available at Camp Grayling. We know that to be true. Now, it is true that other National Guards come to Camp Grayling to receive trainings, but it is also true that National Guard units regularly swap and go to other National Guard training areas, if for no other reason, just to break up the monotony of the training. Camp Grayling has provided us with not one shred of truth or evidence as to why they would need this additional land to engage in the training that they're telling us that they need. Here's why Camp Grayling wants this land, and we need to apply some wisdom here too. Camp Grayling is currently the largest in the country. They want to more than double in size by adding an additional 162,000 miles. In the D-Business Magazine article that I sent to you, it's detailed why Camp Grayling wants this land. Camp Grayling is in the business of subleasing citizen-owned state land to private industry to use our state land as a weapons and technology testing zone. That's why this land is needed. They're trying to turn a 484 square mile block of land in the center of the Northern Lower Peninsula into a weapons, product, and technology testing area. And the scam of it is, rather than go to a designated military training area, testing area, they're using our state land with very little supervision. That's one of the perks. Another perk of using our state land, as it said in the D-Business Magazine article, Camp Grayling can sublease our state land to private industry for, quote, disgustingly inexpensive rates, unquote. So the scam of it is, rather than go out west where there's millions of acres of uninhabited areas to test their weapons, they want to turn the Great Lakes state, pure Michigan, into a products, weapons, and technology testing zone. The central part of Michigan is the high point of Michigan. If you think of Michigan in its simplest terms, basically everything, our ecosystem is just a big filter. Anything that happens in the central part of the state ultimately filters downward to Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. We are here to ask your support, and we're here to ask you to consider passing a resolution opposing the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. To date, we have 64 elected public boards that are represented by more than 320 elected officials, such as yourself, who have voted nearly unanimously to oppose the proposed expansion. And I think it's significant to point out that among those 64 elected boards are 15 county boards that have voted to oppose. In the last 8 days alone, we've had 5 different counties unanimously oppose the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. I'm not asking you to just be a joiner. I'm not asking you to oppose simply because all these other counties have. I'm simply asking you to hopefully find the information that I've provided you compelling enough to join and make a stand to protect Northern Michigan. Commissioners, citizens, I thank you so much for your time.
Have we got any questions?
I would just like to know how he knows so much about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
How did you get the information? Is it accurate?
Yes, ma'am. That's a very reasonable question. The answer is myself and about 7 other people have treated this as a full-time job for about the last 9 months. And a big source of our information, ma'am, is the D-Business Magazine article that I had sent to you a couple of weeks ago. In that magazine is detailed how Camp Grayling has rebranded itself, marketed itself, and is subleasing our state land to private industry.
Have you seen any information as such other than the magazine?
Yes, I absolutely have. The former adjutant, I should say the most recent former adjutant general of the Michigan National Guard, a gentleman named Gregory Van Nace, he took the time to write into the Petoskey News, and in his handwritten letter, he specified that this proposed expansion area is needed to be used as an expanded testing zone, not training zone, testing zone. That's what you said in the article. Also, if you'd really like to bore yourself to tears, there's a 73-page strategic plan for the Michigan Military and Veterans Affairs. And if you go through that and connect the dots, it also details how Camp Grayling has expansive plans for the Camp Grayling area. So much so that when you read the strategic plan, you'd walk away thinking, it's amazing they're even letting anybody live here. So the strategic plan for the Michigan National Guard, the D Business Magazine article, from the mouths of retired officers from Camp Grayling, and even from the former Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, we have this information that they are in fact going to use this land as a weapons testing area. In fact, Colonel Scott Myers was grabbed by, it was either Channel 7.4 or Channel 910 last July, and asked that question, are you going to be subleasing this land as part of a weapons testing area? And he said on camera, I won't rule it out. So.
Is that expansion closed to the public once if they expand it? Will the public be able to use that state land?
That's a very good question. And the answer is nobody knows, because there are components of their current 140,000 acres that are absolutely closed off to the public. We're told that the public won't be denied access, but this is not in the public's eye, this is not an access issue. This is an issue of citizens go to state land for whatever reason they go, to hunt, to fish, to pick mushrooms, to horseback ride. They go to escape anything that remotely resembles what the military does. You know, we're told that when the military gets out there, they're going to be shooting blanks out of automatic weapons, setting up large encampments back in the woods with porta potties and generators and lights and antennas. We want no part of that, especially citizens that come from Alpena County or come from downstate. When they go to state land, we need to appreciate that a lot of these citizens are blue collar workers that have to plan 6 months in advance to have a 4-day weekend up north. When they finally have that opportunity to get up there and enjoy it, they don't want to hear automatic weapons going off in the woods, and they don't want to see Humvees, giant Humvees pulling, trailers with antennas and generators and dozens of soldiers back in the woods. In the same way that it would be incompatible for a smoking group to say we want to lease an area in your gym, that's how citizens feel about the military using public land. We do not begrudge Camp Grayling having the largest National Guard training facility in America. We're happy, we're proud about that. Our position is we just don't want to see it doubled in size. And we could talk for an hour about the PFAS issue, but I did send you the Randall Roth letter, the actual Randall Roth 11-page letter, where he spent 5 of the first 11 pages admonishing Camp Grayling for being poor stewards of the land and for turning its back on citizens. That is a fact.
So, yeah, if I do, Mr. Chairman, yeah. First of all, it is not exclusive use that the Guard is looking for camp. It's not exclusive use. It is.
I didn't say it was, with all due respect.
I'm just clarifying. I understand, and I appreciate that. I'm just clarifying for the record that it is not exclusive use. Okay, it is shared use as it is. So Camp Grayling has been in existence, and my facts may be a little bit up, since 1913. I think the Guard has coexisted with the state and with the community around Crawford County and Frederick Township and that entire area. And you are emphasizing the fact that they are going to do weapons testing, using it as a weapons and technology testing zone.
Yes.
Okay, understand, but we're not talking necessarily artillery and helicopters, and they're talking to increase the footprint to be able to utilize for cyber warfare and electronic warfare testing and training.
General, with all due respect, can you guarantee that? Can you guarantee that?
Can I guarantee? No, I'm retired. I can't guarantee anything. I'm telling you that
There's not one person alive today that can guarantee that, because.
Right, sir, I cannot guarantee that. I am just telling you the intent for that as explained by the National Guard. If you don't trust them, okay, that's a different topic, but their intent for use is not for kinetic activity where they're going to be shooting kinetic weapons. It's for electronic and cyber warfare training. Can I guarantee that? No, first of all, I'm not in charge. I'm retired. I'm explaining because you have used the emphasis that they're using this for weapons training and, this type of activity. So I'm just clarifying the type of training that the weapons technology that they're going to be utilizing.
That to be true, because if you had read the D-Business article, it speaks contrary to what you're saying. It says that Camp Grayling has renamed itself, marketed itself for the purpose of soliciting private sector businesses to come in and use our state land.
Sir, just for clarification, Camp Grayling has been utilized for research and development of training and weapons for training and weapons development, research and development since the mid 1970s. It's just been going on for 50 years. So that has been going on where they allow private industry to go in and to be able to work and do research and development.
You made a point that I haven't had a chance to get to. They have 148,000 acres to do that on. We are told, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming you might have some clue, that 50 to 70% of the 148,000 acres they have access to is not used in a typical year. That is out of the mouth of Colonel Scott Myers. 50% or more of the 148,000 that they have available is not used in a typical year.
I'm just saying that, I don't know where D business is getting their facts and figures and that.
From the mouth of Colonel Scott Myers and the Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, Paul Rogers. They're quoted in that magazine.
Very well.
I sent you the article.
Very well.
I'm not here to offer an opinion. I'm here to offer verifiable facts. I've even taken the time to save you time so you don't have to look up this information. I've sent it to you in links.
I have no further, I'm not going to debate Mr. Monty or Mr. Bolus or whatever. Monty Bolus. I'm not going to have the debate here, sir. That's not what our intent is. He wants us to pass a resolution, so we'll let that stand.
Just a couple of quick questions. You mentioned the presence of PFAS on that base. Is that in relation to the PFAS that they found on most military bases because of the fuel, of the jet fuel firefighting foam? Or is this outside of that, something different?
Yeah, no, it's very much tied to that. It's called AFFF foam. Our concern is that, and you bring up a very good point, most military bases across the country have demonstrated, they didn't do it on purpose, but as a function of what they do, they end up contaminating their bases and their training areas, or worse, becoming Superfund sites. That's our concern. We've already given Camp Grayling 148,000 acres. We want to mitigate any future risk to that 148,000 acres and not have it expand to 310,000.
But you are aware that AFFF has since been drawn back as far as the use, and actually in the state of Michigan it's been collected, mostly destroyed, except for federal military bases where they do keep a small stockpile, but it's handled much differently since around 2017, 18, when the state and federal government became a little bit more. I just wanted to clarify and make sure that I understood that that was from the firefighting foam and not something in addition to. My second question, if I can, Mr. Chairman. Acting director of the DNR, Sharon Lott, is fairly new. Was Director Eichinger in support of this expansion prior to his removal from his?
It's really interesting that you asked that question. For the last 6 months of last year, citizens were directed to send their emails and correspondences to Director Eichinger. We were told before the end of calendar year 2022, an initial decision would be rendered.
Okay.
As we approach December, and we're looking forward to that decision, the governor who appoints the DNR director removed Dan Eichinger from office and sent him over to the Department of Eagle. Speculation is that he was going to reject the proposal, and because that's not the answer the governor wanted, she couldn't just fire him, so she sent him over to Eagle. She then appointed DNR Director Shannon Lott.
My final question, this one will be very quick, Chairman. You mentioned Congressman Bergman's stance on it. Do you know, and just this, not that it would sway my opinion one way or the other, but just because you do mention the congressman, Representative Cavett, you would take it is in opposition?
Yes, sir.
And then the one I am confused on, I know Senator Hoyting at one time was opposed to it. However, I think one of her senior district staff members is fully in support of it. But then I was also told that she may have changed her position. She's neutral.
No, not neutral. In fact, a week and a half ago, Senator Michelle Hoytanga introduced to the floor in Lansing and to the Senate in Lansing a resolution opposing the proposed expansion of Camp Greeley.
I was just curious as to where each of our elected officials.
I can tell you, State Representative Kim Borton, State Representative Camp Cavett, State Representative Neil Frisky, Senator John DeMoose, Senator Michelle Hoytanga are all in Lansing lobbying to fight this. And you can appreciate what a precarious position that puts them in, because they don't want to come across as being anti-military. They would have to be absolutely and utterly convinced that their constituents are opposed to this expansion.
Or in the minority. but fair enough. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
No, I think all the
Okay.
questions.
Gonna call for the question. You're gonna call.
Commissioners, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Cynthia, are you ready?
Yeah.
You forget what you're gonna do.
Well, I hope.
Oh, we're ready, sorry.
No.
We haven't done nothing with that thing.
No, I'm.
So I have a quick ask as far as a budget adjustment goes, and I say quick because we want to remind everyone that our crime victim rights budget is completely 100% grant funded. So we have a budget, an office supply line item, like every other budget, and we had not had written into the actual budget itself the correct amount of monies which were given to us as part of the grant. I'm just asking that line item be adjusted to reflect how much money we did receive for that particular line item, so we can cover all our bases and make sure everything gets paid.
I get the nod from Kim, so we're ready to go. You got the motion, John? Support by Brenda. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Thanks. Dan?
Dan apologizes. He has to be in training this week. But you have in front of you the approval for the County Service Fund grant application. This is a renewal.
Recommendation to approve FY24 CVSF County Veteran Service Fund grant application amount of $31,950 with no county match, and authorize the chairman of the board or county administrator to sign all pertaining documents as presented. This grant has been grant approval, so I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by John. Support by Bert. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer? Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Okay, action item number 4, recommendation to approve the bid and award the contract to M&M Excavation Company for A&G Phase 1 runway project to authorize the chairman of the board and/or county administrator to sign all pertaining documents and contracts and to approve RS&H work order project number 1010-1976-001 for the same as presented. You have the contract.
Yep, you have the documents in front of you, as you recall. So this is talk about it as phase 1, 2, and 3. This is phase 1 of the Air National Guard project, which, as you recall, are the two ends of the runways. We're hoping that phase 1 of the A&G project can run essentially contiguously with our phase 1, which is the FAA project that is funded through the county AIP funds. The bid came in. The Guard will be funding this portion of the project. Major Hilco is here if you have any questions from the Guard in regards to that, but you have the documents in front of you.
Do you have anybody have any questions from the Major here? We got the questions? We're getting off her easy. I need a motion.
You need to say something.
Well, if anybody's gonna do it, it's gonna be.
And entertain a motion. Motion by Bill, support.
I'll support it.
Support by John, discussion.
In regards to discussion, I'm going to recluse myself from this vote.
Okay.
Because I stand to have financial gain with this project.
Okay. Noted, Carrie. Yeah, Travis is excluding himself.
Do you have to approve his recruit?
Yes, I have to approve that. So, and entertain a motion to exclude Travis.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by John.
And I'll support that.
Support by Bert.
Gotcha.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're excluded. Mr. Konachevsky. Okay, now, I need a motion to approve this.
I think that's.
We got it? Okay, roll call in.
Commissioner Konachevsky?
Nope.
Easy.
Sorry. Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. I'll get back on board, John.
You're back in, Travis.
Travis, yeah. Okay, action item number 5, recommendation to approve animal control survey and run it for 30 days, beginning May 1st as presented.
So this is a topic that came up as part of the discussions around the animal control program, was a survey to ask for community engagement and community feedback. You have a proposed survey in front of you. The options obviously are that we can go ahead and run the survey, we can amend the survey, or you can decide that it's not the opportune moment.
Just if I may, Mr. Chairman, just a question as to the public comment, the concern by one of the potential for hacking or spamming or, causing the survey to be misrepresented. Can we have that discussion as to how we're going to do that, Mary Catherine?
Sure, and that did come up as part of the discussion at the Courts and Public Safety meeting. So the survey that you have in front of you was amended to include requiring people answer with their name and their street address as unique identifiers. One person, I suppose they could make up addresses, but then we would have the opportunity to double check those against records. Those are required questions, which is to say that if they don't answer those questions, they will not be allowed to complete the rest of the survey.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any more questions?
One item, I don't think we should send a survey out because I don't think it's going to prove anything. I think it's just going to be a waste of time, waste of money, and we don't even know what we're going to do ourselves right now.
Mary Catherine had stated it was free, right? So worst case scenario is we get, and I do have a concern as well, because who are we really targeting? Because I know we've had a lot of people attending our meetings recently, and I do have a concern with that because I'm not, and I've talked to Mary Catherine, and I think I've mentioned to the other members of our committee that I have been part of animal control this year and then even prior to that, and nowhere at any meeting have we discussed control. I know a lot of the supporters of animal control have come here and spoke to us on the fact that, we're closing it down. And I know Mary Catherine has made that statement to the news before, but never did we say we're closing anything down. We were just, when we first started meeting, we were talking about potentially looking at options, because what we were in when we were part of the contract with Huron Humane Society back in 2017, 18, we were in a contract for $17,000. That's what it was costing Alpena County for those services with Humane Society. Since then, again, we have an animal control officer that has been new since I became a commissioner. That program has grown, and in the meetings that we've had, we've discussed, we need to look at options that will help the county and potentially animal control. Never once have we said we're closing down animal control. So I'm not sure, how this is getting spun in the public's view, but we just need to look at options that we have in front of us. So, but to go back to your question or your comment on this, I do have some concerns because, are we going to get a lot of animal control supporters that say, build it bigger, better, whatever, but we need to figure out that's going to come at a cost. And I've said from the beginning, when we increase cost on things, we need to know where that money's coming from. So.
We don't have the money. We're running a deficit at the fairgrounds now, and this is adding to the deficit. So we gotta make our mind what we're gonna do. And I don't think we should be in the dog shelter business. We should figure out something. There's dog places all over the county that keep dogs, and maybe we could contract with them, and it would be a hell of a lot less expensive than what we're doing now. And we don't necessarily need a deputy sheriff running the dog program. It'd be a lot less expensive if we got somebody, we could hire somebody off the street to take care of that.
Well, I'll go back with Mary Catherine with this survey. I am a little bit concerned on where we're going to end up with this. But again, it's just a tool. As long as it's free, we're good for that, right? We're good with free. In the end, we can take that information, and if it doesn't really lead anything or even help us with anything, at least we've gone down that avenue where we've put out a survey. And I agree with you. I'm not sold on how where this will lead us, but at least we're putting it out there. If we're going to spend $5,000 on this, and the information that we get in the end may not be beneficial, then I would probably question. As long as Mary Catherine's selling it that it's going to be free, then I'm good with that for now.
SurveyMonkey, which is the tool that I put this together with, is free. You can subscribe to SurveyMonkey, which allows you additional options. The free version allows you up to 50,000 responses. Quite frankly, if we get 50,000 responses to this survey, that would be pretty extraordinary. So the only cost would be if at some point we decide to subscribe, but that wouldn't be for any one particular survey. That would just be a general subscription to this service if we wanted to also do additional surveys or have the option to do, other kinds of things that SurveyMonkey would allow us to do.
I look at this as just a method of gathering information from our citizens within Alpena County. And we know that if anybody else responds, you have to put the name and your address, so we'll know if there's people outside the county that are providing input. But it's nothing more than that tool. To be used for information to see how many are interested enough to be able to respond to the survey, and for those who did respond, how they feel about Alpena County animal control. And I don't think its intended purpose is anything beyond that.
Is 30 days too long, do you think? Do you think 2 weeks would be sufficient, or do you think 30 days is?
I think
It's kind of a public input survey. 30 days is a typical response period.
when we did it facilities, we decided this board to next boards. So that's basically 30 days, 28 days, 27 days. Yeah.
And if I may, we're not on any kind of a timeline for any kind of a decision at this point in time, so I guess what does it hurt?
Yeah, again, going back to that February meeting, when I talked to Deputy Reed, we literally said, we're looking at options. Nothing is going to happen tomorrow, 6 months, 9 months. Well, and I think you even made the comment that, at best, we're looking at next fiscal year. If anything, and I'm not, and again, I know now because I said that, I'm going to get words twisted, but we are not making any changes as far as any of this. I mean, myself and the committee members for the public safety, we have not had any discussions where we're making changes. We're looking at options because of the fact that what the animal control has cost us over the last 4 or 5 years, so.
And it might be that information that we get back from this survey leads to a second survey. You know, if there's a particular area that we get input on that the commissioners or you think you would like more information on, we can either do a second survey or we could do some community, input sessions, some charrettes. It's entirely up to how you guys want to manage this process moving forward.
But I will say, I don't think we need to be dragging this on. I think at the end of 30 days, we get that survey, we should start making some serious decisions on this because it cannot keep dragging.
At the very least, we have to budget for next year. So.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions?
I'll just add to the comment to John. And, I've spent this a little bit of time at the shelter. Nobody wants to close that as far as I feel or see. We really want to make it better. It's less than an ideal situation. The accommodations there are not ideal. Everybody knows that. And our intent, my intent specifically, certainly is not to put a lock on the door and open the gate and let the dogs out and walk away from this. We know that we have an issue. It's not an ideal situation for anybody. Frankly, I got involved because I want to make it better. And I know that John feels the same way, and I feel like all of us do. We want to make this a better situation for the people that donate all their time, for the county. Dollars aside, we do have an issue here that we have to deal with. And, I feel like everybody's on board with making this a better situation. We just need to get there. And I also agree with Brenda, we need to get there sooner than later. We have some animals that have been stuck inside a little fenced-in area, 15 hours a day for almost a year. That's no kind of life for them either. So, we've got to figure out something. And I will just publicly share my opinion. I would like to see us put something together with the shelter on M32 to help make that better and make it something that works with our sheriff's department. I think that's a good location. I think they have a lot of potential. And I think that's the best option for us. We're all weighing out options, but that's my opinion for what it's worth.
What's the program for adopting out the animals that you have? You have an animal there for 15 months?
So here's another hurdle, actually. I sat in the meeting with Mary Catherine and John, and we asked Mrs. Reed for some protocols and for some, written instruction as to how things go. And I don't think any of us have received anything yet. We don't have any programs put together. We don't know how this is supposed to operate. Nobody really knows. And I'm certainly not throwing her under the bus. Her heart is definitely in the right place, and she pours a tremendous amount of time into this. You can see it. She has a passion for this. We all just have to work together and fine tune it to make it the best situation for the county and for the animals and for all the people that are putting their time in.
Commissioner LaHaye, the issue with some of the animals that sit there for a very long time is that they're pre-adjudication. So if there is an animal that's seized as part of a case, whether that's because somebody's gotten written up or they're ancillary as part of another criminal case, and we have possession of the animals, those animals are not adoptable until there is an adjudication or that person has released the animals to us so that we can adopt them out. So that's why animals end up staying there for a very long time. Sometimes is because the case has to work its way through the judicial system.
Is there any chance you can charge back to the
You can.
customer?
Yep. And I know that Cynthia does do that when those cases come through our prosecutor. Then, of course, it's a question of collections and collecting those. But yes, we can absolutely charge for that care. Yep.
A lot of the reasons why they end up in these situations is because there's no money to care for them properly. And so then when it comes to paying the courts for caring for them properly after the fact, it's a hard thing to collect. But it's ordered.
Any more discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion for Action item 5, to recommend the animal control survey.
Make a motion to.
Motion by John, support
I'll support.
by Travis. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
No.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Okay, action item number 6, recommendation to approve service agreement with Alpena DDA, amount of $5,000 per year, and a service agreement with Target Alpena, amount of $10,000 per year, with both agreements prorated beginning July 1st through our end budget year of December 31st as presented.
So this is a recommendation coming from the Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee. And there was a discussion at that committee and about, it was referred back from the previous meeting to that committee for some adjustments to those agreements. The committee had a lot of discussion, had some good discussion with the Target Alpena director, and the DPA director, and these are the amended agreements that are before you today.
How much were we paying Target?
We haven't actually ever paid Target before. We do a sponsorship for the chamber of $5,000 per year. And obviously Target Alpena is part of the chamber. It's a division of the chamber, but what we do is just your general, like any other business in the community might do, a sponsorship for the Chamber of Commerce.
And how much money have we given DDA?
0.
Okay, so where are we going to come up with $15,000?
For this year, it would only be $7,500 and it would come out of the contingent.
$7,500.
So it'd be a reduction in your contingency fund is the proposal at the moment.
Well, I think first, we need, before we get in, we're gonna,
Need a motion to,
then we can have a discussion.
I'll make the motion.
motion by Travis, support.
Second.
Second by Jesse. Now discussion.
Want to start that over?
I will. Where are we going to get $7,500? We're going to get 15.
So the recommendation for this year is that the $7,500 would come out of the contingency, that would reduce your contingency by 75.
So the 7,500 would actually cover both DDA and
Correct.
the chamber.
Okay.
For this year.
Yes.
Why are they together?
Well, there's two separate.
Two separate things here.
Two separate things, but she was just saying the total for this year is going to be
Oh, I see.
75.
All right.
Yeah, that's second item 6.
I have a comment on that too. So one of the things that when DDA initially came to us back in the fall, they gave us a proposal of an incremental increase in the cost for the DDA, and we started at $997. When we were at finance a week and a half or a couple of weeks ago, it was recommended proposed $1,500, and today we're at $2,500. And moving forward, we would be invoiced, if you will, the $5,000 annually. So I just did a quick tabulation of the total costs for the period of time that they were suggesting. So if we had gone with the proposed fee schedule that the DDA presented to us, we're going to come up with $21,475. The proposed contract, we're going to actually pay $22,500. So, and I'm sure that at some point, in the 4 years when this is over, 2027, we'll get another proposal if we were to go this direction. But I guess, like I said, my concern is how did we go from the 997 to the 1,500 to the 2,500?
Oh, the first one, John, that they were talking about as it's tax incremental funding, and it was progressed over a 30-year period.
Yeah.
So that's, when that, and as you recall, we disapproved that. This is a service agreement. It started at, I think it was 1,500, but it was changed to 5,000, as I recall. And again, it can be looked at annually. And it's not a 30-year agreement. It's basically like an annual agreement, but we do have a 3-year service agreement that with regard to the DDA. I'm not looking, well, I guess actually both of them, but for both, yeah. But it's not a 30-year agreement with tax incremental funding that increases every year. It's a set rate, can be adjusted and set every year rather than already pre-agreed over a 30-year period.
Just a couple of quick notes. So, because I think I was pretty much one of the more vocally opposed people to this particular issue. I will say I was very pleased that they worked on some of the issues that I brought to them. One of them was because the DDA expansion is 100%, be 100% enclosed in my district. I was specifically concerned about some of the houses that are on Chisholm Street. They did take the ones off of River Street, but kept some of the ones that are in mixed zoning that are currently used as residential. I asked them to remove, I think there's, out of the, I can't remember the number, I think there were like 13 total, 6 that were inhabited. And I said, is there any way to carve out the ones that are currently being used as actual residential? They weren't willing to do that in the beginning. What they came back with is they'll put a clause in there where people can actually be reimbursed for the amount that would have been taken out. If that were the case. The other item was that it is a general fund. Even though we have these contracts, we do have the ability to stop that contract annually. So we can give them a year. If we don't like what's going on, we can stop it. And then also in talking to the DDA and Target, I think we had a larger number for Target, if I remember, it was 15,000, right, Mary Catherine? But what we learned was actually a lot of the grants that they can apply for, the DDA actually has more grants they can apply for than what Target Alpena can. However, we went with a little bit more with Target because they can do work out at the airport and other areas of the county. So that's kind of where the math kind of got changed up a little bit.
So the amount for the Target agreement came down. It was at 15 and it came down to 10, and the one for the DDA went up a little bit.
We just took what we were going, we basically lopped off some off of Target and carried it over.
The only thing I don't like is getting into a contract and then we never get out of it, and it ends up more than when we started, and I just,
Well, I
especially.
can guarantee you that in 2028 or prior to that, when this is not going to probably remain at the same, I would assume that this would go up. Because as that DDA proposal was initially given to us at the years further out, it was a lot more money.
The contract does call for them to come in and do a report twice annually. And so you have an opportunity to go back to the director of the DDA and of Target against the list of priorities that you have assigned to them. So right now there's a service, there's a list of priorities as part of a service agreement. And you have the opportunity to, say, hey, you know what, we didn't see any work done on these 2 priorities. We think we either need to adjust the contract amount because you haven't been doing what we've been asking you to do, or to get out of the contract altogether because the work hasn't been being accomplished. So the contract does require them to come in twice a year and report to the full board on the progress of.
We do have a contract with other people and they don't come in
Right.
and tell us anything.
This one does
Once you
require
get
that.
into a contract, there you go, so.
And I'll add to Jesse's comment, part of the reason that we wanted to move forward with this is, the government is inserting $20 million into our airport. And as a county, we're putting money into the infrastructure, trying to solicit that land that surrounds it. That's one of the things that we really asked a lot of with Target, to help us solicit that property that we are already investing in to try to get some of that money back. And that's why we asked them to come report to us a couple times a year to see where they're soliciting and if it's heeding any results.
I know a couple of businesses downtown that I did speak to directly, and they said they get nothing out of it. They said they had put in for grants. I never got a grant. If they get a bike rack in the front, they gotta pay rent for the bike rack. They ain't given to them. I'm not saying anymore.
I know just one comment to that is I don't believe, under this proposal, the businesses would no longer be in a way taxed, correct? Because this is not, now the money's coming out of Alpena County, as opposed to those individual businesses that the people within that, the DBA.
Within the expansion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes and no. So the city can still proceed with the expansion of the DDA and
Okay,
they
yeah,
can
this is
still.
just our portion.
Right, they can still proceed with a TIF. It's just that you as the county have opted out of that TIF capture. So they just would not capture the county portion of the growth in those revenues associated with properties just in the DDA. If the city decides to go forward with the DDA expansion, they can also go forward with a TIF. They just wouldn't capture the county portion. They would only capture the portion associated with the city or whatever other taxing jurisdictions don't opt out. So that would be the college and the schools.
So maybe we would be leading the way and then we could then, because again, ultimately it's a tax on those businesses. So if this is approved by us, it go back to them and have them do something similar, which
could
lay the groundwork.
I think it's probably a good investment for the DDA and the whatever else is going on here. To donate that money to them.
Target.
And we'll get it back.
I do have one question, Mary Catherine, and I apologize, I should have mentioned this earlier. Ann Gentry was kind enough to send a list to me. I don't know if the other commissioners were copied on that.
It was included in the packet.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So yep, she did include that list of the, I think it was 7 million in grants for downtown over the last couple of years through the MEDC, which spurred about 11 million in private investment within the district.
All right, I apologize, I didn't see that attached. I just want to make sure that was shared.
Here's part of the thing.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Perfect.
They produced quite a bit over the period of time that they worked on it. So I think it's a good idea to go along with the DDA and the target.
Any more discussion? We have motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier?
No.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Okay, action item number 7, recommendation to increase target service agreement line item 101-200-801.006 an amount of 5,000 increase Alpena DDA service agreement line item 101-200-801.007 by 2,500 and decrease contingency line item 101-941-955-000 by 7,500 and authorize the treasurer to make the budget adjustment as presented. Motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Travis, support.
Support it.
Support by Bert. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fournier?
No.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Okay, number DDH lease, Mary Catherine.
Yes, so you have in front of you the lease for the 711 West Chisholm building. This is the lease that is the result of the RFP that was done with the potential lessee. I do not have a final back from the lessee on the clean version of this, but they had made comments. I responded to them. It was brought forward to facilities. Facilities recommended that it come to this board so that we could move forward with the lease and authorize myself and or Commissioner Peterson as the chair to finalize a lease with I2P. We're very close to completing all of the landlord work on that building. It's really looking good. Hopefully we can get all of you back there when the renovations are complete. But I'd like to be able to get that lease completed so that we can get a security deposit in from them.
I don't know if we should, first we need a motion, then we get to chat.
Make the motion, Brenda.
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Brenda, support.
Support.
Support by Travis. Discussion.
This lease has been going back and forth for quite a while, and I think that maybe we should put a timeline on it. We don't hear from you, and maybe we should just put it back on the market for lease or sell it. I mean, we can't be been doing this for what, 3, 4, 5 months now and still nothing? It's,
It's getting in its final stages, Brenda. I mean, it's
We've actually invested a bit of money
in that.
yeah, if
to
we
meet,
used it to
to meet
somebody
their
else.
requests.
And to be fair to I2P, this delay was not all on them. So we went to, I did not have a standard commercial lease because the county has not done this kind of a commercial lease before. So we went to outside counsel to get a lease ready. So that was the initial delay in getting lease done. So then we presented it to them. They had some time to review it, get comments back. We reviewed it. So
now, are they good?
yes, I believe they are. There was one outstanding issue left that might require a little bit of negotiation, which has to do with the property taxes, but that's because it's a very speculative thing. That property has never been on the tax rolls before. And so we have an estimate about what those property taxes are going to be, but we don't know for sure. Right now, the lease calls for the lessee, for them to pay those property taxes. But obviously that could be a fairly substantial sum based on the size of that building. So that is the only really outstanding issue that would be left, that would be negotiated before the lease would be finalized.
That was my question was, how was that potential tax is going to be worked in? So if that tax, how do you come up with the number and how will we know, when we actually know, will it be too late?
So right now, the lease simply says they pay the taxes. There's no dollar figure associated with it. That was a concern that was raised by I2P is what kind of a bill are they looking at? And so I have given them our best guess based on some information from our equalization department about what that might look like. But obviously we can't know until the assessor actually goes out and looks at it and puts it on the rolls as to what that is going to be. So they might come, my expectation is that if we enter into this lease, that they might ask to come back after the first year and have another discussion about the property taxes once they've gotten their first bill. They want to be in within the next couple of weeks. So we'll have a security deposit. We'll have the security deposit, which is a month and the first month's rent before they move in.
Do we have to have that, the tax settled first?
Not necessarily. That's what I was saying is it might be that we sign the lease as is, which is to say that they are responsible for the property taxes, but leave it open for them to come back to us with a potential alternate arrangement if the property taxes come in really, really high.
Yeah, because we can't just keep doing this. Yo-yo,
Exactly. We'd like to see some revenue coming in. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Okay, we
you.
get a motion and a support. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. Okay,
Okay, so now that you've approved to move forward with the lease, a few months back, there was this discussion that if and when this property is leased, how you wanted to move forward with the accounting. Because the previous accounting for this building has been within the general fund. And the reason that was set up, went back to the history, is the state used Alpena County's good credit. Alpena County is the one who took out the loan for the state to build the building, so the state could rent it to pay off the loan and then the lease time afterwards. All of that has obviously passed. Loans have been paid off. The leases with them are gone. So now there is no reason why you would need to keep the lease payments and expenses within the general fund. Chairman Peterson had said, he'd like to see this separated so the money doesn't get lost, so to speak. So I need to know, or some direction from you guys, do you want me to build the chart of accounts for this building within the general fund, using what we've had before with the FIA lease or the state lease, however it's been named? Or do you want it separated like we currently have separated all the monies coming and going and tracking for the district health building that we now have. Because it does make a difference once that's revenues coming in, how do you want to move forward with this?
That district health has been working very well.
Yeah, I just need to be very clear. This is still all public money.
Yeah.
It's just being tracked separately from the general fund. The district health building is holding its own. It's bringing enough money in to cover its repairs, does have a little bit of fund balance, which is great. And I know that's what you'd like to see happen with this building as well. And it's just definitely easier to track, and there's no reason to keep it within the general fund anymore if we bring it separate. I have initially set up a chart of accounts. I just need a straight name that you guys are going to stick with for this building, so we know what to name this other fund, if that's what you want me to do.
Right, because we can't keep calling it the old DHHS building.
And I'm old enough, I call it the FIA building, so, yay.
My idea was to keep it in that separate fund, like we did the DH4 building. And that money's there in case we have a roof or we have a furnace goes out or whatever, it's there. Instead of getting thrown in the general fund, then we have to come back and request money out of the general fund to repair stuff.
And that being said, if this entity, this separate fund shows a profit, that is not general fund profit.
No.
You would have to vote to move it from there to your general fund.
Yep.
Which we could do.
Oh, yeah, it's not that you can't, it's just you need to be very aware of that before we pull this apart. This is what you want done.
I think when we initially set up the district health, we in the beginning, we had to fund, I think it was some repairs like for the elevator and stuff. But then now as time has gone by, at least
that fund paid back the
Yes,
money we paid.
yes. General fund loaned money to the district health building fund to initially get them started for some repairs, but that has been paid back to the general fund.
I think we need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I do too.
So I'd entertain a motion that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by John to leave it.
What are you
We just got to
gonna
call it. So
I was going to say, so
I
a
just-
motion to create the
If I make a motion,
7-Eleven
I
West.
Sure, it's got a-
You get to propose it, whatever you would like.
I don't know.
So it's going to be fund number 245,
Okay.
but
What we call it.
what you want, I still need to have, something to call it.
I think calling it the address is probably the cleanest,
7-Eleven?
the 7-Eleven West
The
Chisholm Fund.
7-Eleven building.
The 7-Eleven West Chisholm Fund.
If you want to go way back, I mean, I remember it was Market Square when there was a ball field there, so we could, no, I'm just being facetious.
I just, this will be the fund number. What do you want to call it? 7-Eleven.
John, you're going to,
I would prefer we keep it short and sweet, 7-Eleven building.
yeah,
7-Eleven building.
Sounds good.
that's your motion, John.
Yes, that's my motion.
Okay, support.
I'll second this, I'm sorry, go ahead. The 7-Eleven building separate fund, thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Support by Bert. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Bills to pay. Carrie, anybody got any questions on the bills to pay?
Let me just open this up real quick. Oh, yeah, I just had, and I totally forgot to ask, but we did have an additional payment for Jeanette Tolan. Are we getting to the end of that?
We are done.
Done? Is that why it's only 200? Okay.
Make a motion to.
Make a motion to pay the bills by Jesse. Support. Support by
Can I
Bill.
ask one more question?
Yep, you can ask one more.
So when I was looking under the adult drug court, in the past, we had the tether program where the individuals that were being tethered would pay us back. Noticed, and again, I don't know who would be able to give me this information, but we paid for 2 tethers, and I was curious if we would actually get that reimbursed back.
Paid for 2 tethers. The last tethers I remember was through the sheriff's office, and we haven't had that activity
That's what it says. It
in a
says
couple of
CPS
years.
through adult drug court
would you
contractual
know?
services.
That I don't know.
As far as I know, the participants have been paying the local company directly because they've been owing the bills.
70,
So why did we get, if they're paying it directly, why are we paying a bill as
that's
well?
kind of my question.
So who's on the
Is it under the regular bills or the add-ons?
It's in the regular bills.
Under Department 299, well,
Yeah, that would be, yeah, Department 299. Do you have that, Carrie?
How much was it for?
75 each.
Yeah. Why are we?
Who was it? Sorry, who was it?
It's adult drug court, it's Department 299. It's for Northern Michigan Tether. There's two separate invoices, it looks like.
It's not, my concern isn't really the money, but it's more of a repayment that as it was suggested that the individuals would be paying for
Like it was approved by Judge Curtis.
No.
It's listed defendant. I can give this to you, but it was the defendant.
Well, it has the names over here.
Yeah, it's got, yeah.
We should think about redacting.
Well, so can I ask that we pull these?
Yes, I could amend my motion, pay the bills, that particular one.
Okay, there's two under the only two under the two of them under the drug court.
99
It
count.
just says GPS enrollment on there, so I'm not sure. Must have been two people.
No mind.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, so.
The motion, all those two
Get a
others?
second?
No.
I'll do a second.
And he's amending the motion, so you're gonna second amend the motion. Okay. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kozlowski. Commissioner LaHaye. Commissioner Osmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Thanks, Carrie. Reports to special or ad hoc committees, facilities. Travis. Got anything?
Nothing really to add, other than, the stuff that was in the packet.
Okay. John, courts, public safety?
I think we've hashed out the big thing on which was the animal control survey. We did have a couple of items, and I know Commissioner Francisco talked about, and I don't know, there's probably a couple of the others that were part of that juvenile court. The biggest thing with that, well, I guess pretty much maybe most of them know, but a potential satellite facility here, and I guess that's probably the biggest thing on that one.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Okay. Personnel? Nothing on personnel?
That's Jesse. He's the chair. Oh, I'm not, sorry, not yet.
Not yet. Next meeting. Other boards, DHD 4, Brenda.
I have nothing.
Okay.
I don't know if Bill does or not.
No, I wasn't there last week.
Okay. Fair board.
Unfortunately, I was out of town for the last board meeting, but I will ask, did we ever get our release signed?
Yes.
Good, great.
Okay. MCOG?
Meeting met 20 April. There was a great presentation on Munetrics that I've talked to our county administrator about getting access to it because it's a great planning tool as well as a reporting tool. So I'm going to learn more about that. Maybe it'd be helpful for us. And they have accepted, NEMCOG admitted that they are going to be working on the materials management plan for the counties, and Nico Tucker is the project officer for that. Nothing further.
Okay. NMMA?
Yeah, so the Triple MA board actually met this morning. Things are proceeding along with that group. I know that this board had requested that for the interlocal agreement, that they take those all back to the township. So all the township reps now have those, and we'll be taking them back out to the township boards for approval before that comes back before this board in regards to the surcharge. Otherwise, planning is proceeding apace.
I have a question, Kathleen.
Yes, ma'am.
I had heard that someone or somebody is saying that the veterans and the less fortunate have to start paying that fee. So I was wondering, how can they make them pay it? It hasn't come through the county yet. We haven't agreed to it.
Nothing has been agreed at this point, so you guys have to make that determination when the surcharge agreement comes back.
I mean, they're already starting to tell the counties and the townships.
Well, the existing surcharge agreement covers the existing, the way that it's being taken in right now. And the existing agreement exempts certain people from it.
Yes.
I will tell you, the resolution, I will tell you that I think that board is reaching out to get some legal opinions because you treat surcharges and taxes differently. And there are different rules and regulations about what can be exempted and what is not allowed to be exempted. It's a surcharge or a tax. Those are not the same kind of thing. And so they are looking for some opinions about how to handle those different things on a tax bill. And I know that you guys had requested, sort of a full packet of information from the NEMA board when they come back in regards to the surcharge. And so I know that will be part of the packet of information that they bring back to you as in partially in regards to that issue.
I know Alpena Township was one of them. Nathan Skibby was in the paper as saying that they were going to have to start paying. I thought, wait a minute, that hasn't come to the Board of Commissioners.
It has not, so it'll be up to.
So they don't have permission right now to say that. I mean, they have to come to us, period.
So, and I guess I missed the very beginning of that. So are you saying that all those resolutions were already sent out to the townships?
The draft resolutions, because they have to bring those back to you guys before you make any kind of a determination. So all of those surcharge, all those interlocal agreements have to be passed by all of the various and sundry boards before it comes back to you.
Well, how do they pass the board or how do they pass the resolution? Because we haven't decided as a board whether we're going to increase the surcharge or not.
They don't.
They don't. They come back to you.
What happens is they have, the local governments have an intergovernmental agreement between the county and those governments that's being presented to them from the NMMN?
NMMA.
Okay. And the local units are being asked by the NMMN to get them approved. And then those would be brought to the county. The county may not approve it at all. The local units may be going through all this work and the county may say, no, never mind, we're happy where we're at. County may say, oh, this is great. How do we want to move forward? So at this point, that's really what's been happening is the Materials Management Authority has, to my understanding, made some adjustments to the previous intergovernmental agreement. Those agreements have to be between the county and those governments, not the materials management. So they're asking that those local units of government look at those, approve them, and then they'll be brought here to this board for you to decide whether or not this is something you want to address or if you want it changed or adjusted, and then things would go from there. A resolution would have to be passed by the Board of Commissioners after there is an signed and agreed intergovernmental agreements between the county and each unit of government within our county before that resolution could
take
effect or be voted in. So there's
yeah.
more moving pieces to this.
I think that's pretty sad. They want to take money away from the veterans. I mean, they must be hurting a lot.
Well, and I think the total, and again, I guess that's a different point, but I was going to say the total we kind of calculated roughly was like $75,000 extra by increasing the surcharge. One point, and I think Commissioner Francisco kind of sparked it in my head, I think when we had meeting, I'm not sure if it was the last meeting when we were discussing the surcharge, you had asked about who our representatives were on this Northeast Michigan Material Management Authority. And I started thinking about it. We do not have one elected official on the Northeast Management Material
Authority.
Did I say 3 M's?
Michigan Materials Management Authority.
So my question is, and I'm just going to throw this out there because right now we have Mary Catherine and Don Gilmet, who is no longer a commissioner. I think moving forward, we need to look at, because every one of those other townships, those other people that have a buy-in on this, their person is an elected official. And I think we, as a board, need to look at that moving forward.
Right, how did Don Gilmet get on?
Well, I think it rolled over from when he was a commissioner.
Oh, yeah, well, he's no longer a commissioner.
Yeah, and he's been there since day one on this.
He has. I am perfectly happy if you would like to appoint a commissioner to attend those meetings. I will probably continue to attend those meetings because I have a whole list of items on behalf of the county that I am responsible for taking care of so that the management authority can be officially out on its own, doing its own thing. But I do not need to vote. If somebody else would like to attend.
I think that Don Gilmet should be taken off.
Well,
I mean,
you can still stay on there. Part of it's eight,
But he-
how many people are on there? 18,
It's 12.
12?
Why do we have him on there? He's not county
Well, you got the
commissioner.
six from the township, city, and county. And you've got one from each, is it 13?
Right.
or
There's a
7, or,
So there's the,
person at large, isn't there? A person, somebody.
well,
at
there
large?
used to be, and that's where, I think that's where Don came in. And because he was a commissioner, he just carried over that he was.
Yeah, he's,
the bylaws of the authority do not require that the appointees from each of the constituent organizations that created the authority must be an elected official. They simply have to reside in the community that they are representing.
so another,
It just so happens that I think myself and Rachel Smolensky are the only people on that board who are not elected. Everyone else is elected, but that is simply how they appointed people. So again, however you want to handle the appointments, it's up to you. So
thing is, the county has no say-so.
Well, they have no elected official.
No, like, what they have.
But we didn't even say he could be on it.
Well, and again, I think it was a rollover from.
He was appointed.
Nobody really.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion that we take Don off that board because he has nothing to do with the commissioners and put Francisco on it.
No,
I accept.
Thank you very
I
much.
accept. I would be
go
privileged.
ahead, Mary
Yes,
Catherine.
so we have to have a motion and,
I mean, I will say Don has a lot of history on that.
oh, I know he does. That's why he shouldn't be on it.
Why shouldn't he be on?
Yeah, why shouldn't you be? You can be a reason why.
Because you already have Rachel on there, which she knows everything about it. You have Johnson on there. She knows everything about it. You have people on there that knows everything about it, and you don't have anybody that don't. We need a person to represent the county.
I'm gonna point you.
No, I don't want it.
Oh, then- then no.
I don't even recycle, for God's sakes. I made the motion that we take Gilmet off.
We can't,
Just say
We
it's,
can't. I just made a motion.
Chair.
yeah.
okay.
I just made a motion, for God's
No,
sakes.
it's all the appointments come through the chair, so. I can,
Brenda,
So I, as a county commissioner, have no say-so in any of this, just you.
no, you vote. You need to vote.
But I can make a motion.
Chairman Peterson, as the county treasurer, I would recommend that this board does have someone that is an elected official
Yeah.
representing the county
Yes.
on the board. Not that you can't have your administrator there as well and another person as well, but I do feel it does put your administrator in a kind of a conflict of interest
Yeah.
when your administrator is bringing stuff from that board, because she's working on that board, to you guys, for you guys to approve it really should be a commission.
I am very careful to tell them that you guys are the
Yeah,
voting members.
It's just kind of messy and it would be much cleaner.
You take Mary Catherine off it.
Well, yeah, so to your point, you make a motion to, I would say, and I'm not telling you what to say, but make a motion to put an elected official, one of us, on.
That is correct.
But I don't know if we can say to remove, because
No, I don't want, Mary Catherine should, if she's on it, fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's just that a lot of commissioners that are no longer commissioners are all back on the board, for God's sake. We got one on Parks and they didn't even apply for the job when we got them back. I mean, I make the motion, Mary Catherine stay and Francisco appointed.
You can make a motion for somebody to appoint,
For the chair to appoint.
the chair to appoint.
All right, Chair, you appoint
Okay,
very carefully,
okay.
please.
Yes,
so you
somebody take me.
didn't have a second.
I'll say.
Oh, thank you,
We got a
thank you.
Motion by Brenda, support by Travis. Travis rules of order. Yeah, keep it changed here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bert, would you like to be sitting on the recycling committee?
I would be honored to represent the county on the, and MMMA.
Okay.
Okay, now my second motion is that we take Don Gilmet off from representing the county.
Is he actually representing the county?
Yes, he is, with Mary Catherine.
Well, and again, I'm not going to say anything, but I had a conversation with someone outside, actually in my district, about him. And again, I know I can say his allegiance was with the city, but he was with the city for a long time. So is he representing the city at this point, or is he representing the
Well,
county?
he was a county commissioner, so he represents both.
Well,
He was at
no,
the city.
he's, I guess.
Building inspector. In fact, he still is.
Yes, and I also heard that that person was asked why he votes with the women all the time. He said he likes to keep them happy. Well, we don't need somebody to keep them happy. We need somebody to do the job.
That's your
Okay,
opinion.
so I made that motion. Do I
Do you have
have
support?
support?
I'll support.
Support by John. Any discussion?
Does the guy add a lot to the board? I don't know Don at all, other than just hearing his name.
John was a building inspector, and he still is for the city and half of the townships, I think. The city hired a new one, but he's bringing them along so they can transition into it.
He's serving the city, right?
He works for the city.
He is contract with the city while they finish training their new building inspector they have hired.
Been with the city forever.
So just a question, Mr. Chairman. So we've made a motion to appoint me to be on the MMM Authority, and I would represent the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Gilmet, by my being placed as the board-appointed member, is he an additional, if we don't take him off, is he an additional board member?
Her motion was to remove him.
If that motion fails,
Well,
do we have, we authorized two
yeah,
representatives?
we are on those two.
Okay.
But somebody has to go.
Somebody has to
Right,
go.
because Mary Catherine is the second.
And I want Mary Catherine to stay.
He couldn't be a person at large on that.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand how, so,
Well, he can be the person at large, but the way that the makeup of that board was done was 2 from the city, 2 from the township, 2 from the county. So if Commissioner Francisco's on, somebody has to go.
Because Mary Catherine's going to be there. and
That's right.
Be there, Bert, right?
that's, yes,
The motion was to leave Mary Catherine, remove Don Gilmet.
got it, okay.
And he is replaced by Francisco.
Well, you got to have 2. You're going to have 2, so you got to take somebody off.
That's right, absolutely.
Got a motion, got a second? A roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
I'm sorry, can I get clarification just one last time? There's a lot of discussion. What is this motion exactly then?
the motion was to remove Mr. Gilmet and leave Mary Catherine and Bert Francisco.
Because you can
On
only
the-
have 2 on there.
Only have 2 on there.
If he's on there, you got to.
Because you can
Either
only have 2
Bert or Mary
representatives
Catherine
from
are
the
not gonna be
county,
there
and
if
that
you
would be
want
Mary Catherine and
Mary Catherine to stay.
Okay.
Don Gilmet has to go.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, an update on new business. Is there any correspondence come through, Mary Catherine?
Nothing that we haven't already discussed. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. New business, update to various boards and standing committee appointments. This is about the 10th version we went through.
And you got 11 coming.
We got 11.
I'm sorry, number 18, which is the NEMCOG contract.
Oh, yeah, from whatever, yeah. I put, Mary Catherine and I discussed this. We already approved this contract with MCOG, but I wanted everybody to look at it and had any questions on it, to bring it up before the board, before we sign it. There wasn't.
So I've read through it. It's not very clear. It's one of those ones kind of gives, I think, a vagueness.
Yeah.
Exactly what the recreation plan, what does
Right.
that actually involve?
So we have an existing recreation master plan. This would be for an update. The master plan goes through 2023, so it expires at the end of this year. Master planning is critical for us because a master plan is required when we apply for certain kinds of state grants, particularly our DNR grants, which obviously we've been very successful with up to this point. We're very lucky this year in that the Charter Township, as well as the other townships who planned with us previously, and actually the city has actually also committed to a joint plan with us, which means that we'll be able to pool our resources for one, and do a comprehensive plan that includes most of the recreational assets for the entire county as part of that recreation master plan. And really, it's just it's a 5-year strategic plan that looks at all of the recreational assets within the community, make some decisions about which ones we need to prioritize and where we would like to see investment going forward in the next 5 years.
So, I'm sorry, so the city is participating?
The city is, they had not.
Okay, I just
Yes.
make sure.
Yep, the city is going to plan with us. And this has been budgeted, but you had not actually approved the NEMCOG agreement because we didn't have it yet, but this is part of the Planning Commission's budget for this year.
We need it. We don't need it as just informational purposes. Okay, update the various boards and standing committees. Action item 9, recommendation to approve board chairman's appointment to as follows. Standing committees, Commissioner Jesse Osmer is going to be now the personnel committee chair.
Thank you.
You accept that?
Yes.
Okay. Move economic committee from ad hoc committee to a standing committee. Jesse, Bert, Travis, and myself. Various board appointments, Commissioner Francisco, Northeast Michigan Council of Governments, myself as an alternate. And the Northeast Michigan Consortium, North Michigan Northern County Association, Underbay Transportation and 911 Advisory Executive Board, and Central Dispatch Policies and Procedures will await appointment of District 3 appointee.
You're going to be busy.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're retired, I guess. So that's fine.
Anybody got any questions or would like to?
I'll make the motion that we approve those appointments.
You have support?
I'll support it.
Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make public comment?
I'm going to speak for 1 minute.
Yep. Go ahead.
Commissioner Francisco had mentioned that Camp Grayling had coexisted with the community of Grayling for nearly 110 years, and that's absolutely true. What I think it's important for your board to understand is that Camp Grayling as it currently exists is in 3 counties, Alkaska, Crawford, and Otsego County. All 3 of those counties and every township within those counties voted nearly unanimously to oppose the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. So if you're wondering how the counties most directly affected and most familiar with Camp Grayling feel about the expansion, I've just shared that information with you. I'd like to ask you respectfully to consider, if the shoe was on the other foot, and it was your county that was being affected and you opposed the proposed expansion, would you appreciate Crawford County standing up for you?
Bonnie, when you get done, I want to talk to you for a second, okay?
Of course.
Okay. Any other public comment? Anybody online?
Yes.
State your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Jim Knight. I'm from Bear Lake Township. I'm an elected official. I'd just like to make a comment about the Camp Grayling expansion. My township now has 17 square miles where we have training from the National Guard. And I can tell you emphatically that in the last Northern Strike, they pushed the boundaries, and my constituents did not like what they seen. They had Chinook helicopters 150 feet over their houses. They had lights shining down at 2 a.m. in the morning. There was a series of 7 rafts that went down the Manistee River, also known as the Holy Water, by the fly fishermen. Now, my constituents called and sent me pictures of these troops going down in a training op. There were 9 of them in 7 rafts, and they had a belt-fed machine guns that were in the front of it. My constituents did not buy their places to be part of a training op. So this is what we are experiencing over here in Kalkaska County in Bear Lake Township. Now, I understand that you don't see the footprint and see the activity that you see that we don't see that we see, but we are emphatically opposed in this expansion of Camp Grayling, and it is a no-brainer for us over here because of what we see and what the contamination that could be possibly made on our public land by defense contractors with little or no oversight. And this is a fact because in D Business Magazine article, it's called Camp Innovations that you were provided. And you can clearly see the quotes that were in there. I would hope that you would possibly consider, after watching your meeting, that you would consider joining the 64 government entities that are clearly see that this is a threat to the natural resources and to the people up here. There are also almost 40 organizations, be outdoor groups, environmental groups, clubs, businesses. All of them see nothing good coming from this. We are not opposed to the Guard training. We think they have enough land to train on. They have 230 square miles to train on. We just say train there. They don't need any more land. On behalf of 7,300 people on a Facebook page, not one more acre should be allowed to go to the Guard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Martha Doobie.
State your name and your address, please.
Martha Doobie, 8378 Doobie Drive, Grayling, Michigan. I actually live in Lovell's Township, which borders the Camp Grayling training area. And, forgive me if I'm a little shaky or my thoughts aren't composed. I hate public speaking. But I feel there are some things that kind of need to be pointed out. I believe it was the chair who had mentioned that the intent of the land is what should be considered the most. And I just want to point out that in the 40 years I have lived in Lovell's, I have seen the evolution of their training and it changes. So there are at least 4 lakes and a portion of the river that I fished on and camped at when I was a child that I can no longer even see because it's now fenced in. Now, that wasn't their intent 50 years ago, but that is the reality now. And my house shakes, and I know bombing is expected near the ranges. But I know on the other side of my township, I can go out in the woods and enjoy peaceful nature. If they get this expansion, they will take every remaining acre of public land in my township, which means we will have no more economic tourism that is based on peaceful use of our forests. We have equestrian trails that come through our township that will no longer be safe for horseback riders, because although you can train your horses to coexist with people, How do you train them to coexist with 80 soldiers firing machine guns? You just don't. So it's the reality of what we live with. We're asking for assistance from other counties supporting us in our opposition. We're not asking to get rid of Camp Grayling. We're asking them not to take more. And I asked Colonel Myers if they have done any studies on how to more effectively use the 140,000 acres or 148,000 acres they already have. And he said no. And that is publicly available. I recorded all the meetings and put them on YouTube. So I'm just saying, think about it before you vote or don't vote, because these leases are permanent. They start as 20 years, but in the 100-year history, one has never been terminated at the end of its lifetime. They are perpetually renewed. And as a 6th-generation resident of Northern Michigan, I'm just asking for you to look at it objectively and support your neighbors.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
Dawn Marweed.
Yep, you have, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Dawn Marweed, 11011 Emery Street, Assaneek, Michigan. So I have just a few comments related to the survey. You're indicating that as long as I just put my first and last name and my address in it, it's going to be an unbiased survey. However, how do we know that that's truly that person? So just for example, how do you know it's not somebody who's living in Florida and entering in their parents' names and their addresses? And then they're going to go on to, as long as I know somebody's name and address, I can do the survey. I can do it multiple times, but I can impersonate somebody by doing that. So again, I'm not exactly sure how that is going to help with the survey if you can't confirm who is actually doing that survey. Also, Mr. Kozlowski indicated today that there's been no discussion on ending the current program. And us as the supporters, we've been speaking about keeping the animal control shelter, not about anything about Deputy Reed, of ending anything that's going on with the program. We're indicating that we want you to leave the shelter as it is, which is run by the animal control officer, Deputy Reed. However, today, Mr. LaHaye gave his opinion that we don't need an animal control officer. I believe he indicated that we could just take a common person off the street to do that job. However, I hope if you're ever out walking, or your grandkids or your kids are ever out playing and they get attacked by a dangerous dog, I truly hope that never happens, but I really don't want a common person off the street coming to my rescue. If you ever lost a dog and a dog needs to be returned, I hope we can go to the animal control shelter and we can call those people and say, my dog is missing. And when somebody brings that dog to the control shelter, that my dog might be there. Again, it was mentioned about how much the animal control program or the shelter is costing the county. And just want to remind you again about the Alpena News article that the animal control program brought in just over $95,000 in donations and license fees. So the animal control program is costing the county approximately $4,300. And if that's what we're getting for $4,300, an animal control officer, an Alpena County deputy, an control shelter, that's what I want for $4,300. You guys gave away a lot more money in this meeting than what that control shelter and program costs.
I'm going to stop you right there in 3 minutes, please, and ma'am, and open it back up to anybody else. If not, any other business come before this board, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Make a motion by John, support by Brenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 I like it here.
Hey, I'm tired of sitting down.